Good evening. Welcome to Anne Arundel County Public Schools 2018 Tuesday Summer Series. In an effort to address and provide information on topics of concern to residents across the county, under the leadership of Dr. Arlotto, Anne Arundel County Public Schools is hosting 6 Summer Series sessions, tonight being the 5th. For programming purposes, our session will end no later than 7 o'clock. Please be advised that this session is being recorded and will be posted on the website for public reference. You may locate the recording at aacps.org/Summer Series 2018. Again, that's aacps.org/Summer Series 2018. Note cards have been provided to you for you to write down questions pertaining to this evening's topic. Our moderator for this evening is Dr. McMahon, and she will review the questions, and only questions that are on the note cards will be read and reviewed in the order in which they are received. 1 question per card, please, and please be sure to include your information in case follow-up is needed. Personnel and private issues will not be addressed during the open session, but can be discussed with our staff at the conclusion of this meeting. This evening's topic is curriculum and instruction. Leading our presentation this evening is Ms. Michelle Batten, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Along with us this evening, we're delighted to have Ms. Shannon Pugh, Manager of Instruction, Mr. Walter Skip Lee, Director of Curriculum, Ms. Bobby Petrick, Director of Special Education, and Ms. Sharon Stratton, Director of Instruction. At this time, I will be introducing Ms. Michelle Batten.
Good evening. As Mrs. Jackson stated, I am Michelle Batten, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and truly excited that my colleagues and I are here with you this evening to share highlights. Our goal is for you to have a better understanding of who we are in curriculum and instruction and the role we play to support schools and student achievement. The work of curriculum and instruction is rooted in elevating all students and eliminating all gaps. Our strategic plan serves as our roadmap to offer all students pre-K to 12 important and relevant content, tools, skills, and experiences so that every student is able to confidently build and cross their own unique bridge from school to community engagement, workforce participation, and college enrollment. Curriculum and Instruction collaborates with staff across all AACPS departments and schools to ready our students to become literate, independent, caring, and contributing adults who are able to successfully navigate and positively impact the 21st century global society. Curriculum and Instruction team members focus their efforts to develop relationships with staff, schools, families, and business partners, to ensure consistency, efficiency, and effectiveness of curriculum, services, and programs, to provide documents to clarify state regulations and curriculum, to identify best teaching practices, and to provide purposeful professional development. So before I turn the microphone over to my colleagues, I'd like to take a little deeper dive into who we are in curriculum and instruction, aka C&I. We are proud members of academics and strategic initiatives and work hand in hand with our partners in advanced studies and programs. As you can see on the slide, we are home to several offices: reading, English, language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, world and classical languages, our fine arts, environmental literacy, physical education, health, technology, library media, as well as programs serving early childhood students, English language learners, and students receiving specialized instruction. Each of these offices are responsible for delivering resources and services that schools need for student achievement. Our manager of assessments, Shannon Pugh, is here with us this evening and is going to share additional information in the area of assessments.
Thank you. So all of our work is focused on student learning and student progress, and this is why we regularly assess our students. Timely assessment information is important. We no longer wait until the last day of a semester, last day of a year, or even the last day of a marking period before we assess students to decide what they know and what they don't know. We weave in formative assessments throughout the learning process, and then when we do give summative assessments, we give them in a timely manner, and so that we still have time after summative assessments so teachers can examine and analyze student results and reteach as necessary, and even provide enrichment opportunities for our students. We want and need to know what students are learning and how they are progressing in grade level content and skill standards. Some of the content and skill standards are very familiar to us as I think back on the years when I was a student. We ask students to identify main idea, write an introduction to an essay, and solve multiplication problems. But today we also have far more complex standards that we need to prepare our students for. For example, students are asked to design and conduct experiments, present ideas to others, build websites, perform pieces of music, and create solutions to complex problems. With such complex standards, teachers need multiple ways to assess our students. So our work in curriculum and instruction is to help teachers create various assessment experiences for our students. All of these assessment experiences are grounded in standards and are normally rubric driven. Here are just some of the examples on the screen of how we assess students in multiple ways. Some of them, like the standards I mentioned, are very familiar to us. For example, pencil and paper tests are something that we were probably familiar with as students. And some standards, it makes sense to assess students in these ways. So maybe that's where they are solving those multiplication problems or writing those essays. We also have an opportunity through computer-based assessments to really assess students in different ways. We can build in opportunities for them to interact with digital media, for them to manipulate 3D objects on a screen, and some really cool opportunities for them to demonstrate their learning in that way. Other ways that we assess our students are just basic classroom checks for understanding. When I was a student, this was probably referred to as a quiz, so something a 5 or 10-minute opportunity to see where students are. These are very formative in nature, meaning that we can see where students are and who needs more additional support and guidance. So some of the other experiences on the screen might be new to us. We know that in the 21st century world, our students are going to be asked to do a variety of things, and we want to give them those opportunities as early as possible. For example, many of us have to give presentations as part of our jobs and our work, and so we want to start students with those opportunities when they're young. We even start in elementary school with our students creating presentations and presenting information either digitally or orally to their classmates, and this is a way we can assess their learning. We also give students opportunities to create other things, whether they are digital or they design robots, all types of really cool opportunities for our kids to demonstrate what they know through their own creations. We give them tasks and projects, and we also give them opportunities to assemble portfolios. So we know in the 21st century world, a lot of the work that we do, and when individuals get jobs, they collect their best work into portfolios and present that with the way of, here, hire me. So we provide those opportunities for students to really reflect on their own work that they have, revise as needed, and put those together in a meaningful way. And all of these are assessments. We are assessing what students know, where they are, and where we can take them as we move forward with our students.
Thank you, Shannon. So in the world of curriculum development, the idea of assessment plays an integral part in where we are going because it establishes what we'd like to know, what students know and are able to do. So we start with the standards that govern our work, and in the curriculum development, those standards provide that trajectory to which we're headed, and we develop the assessment piece to know what's going to happen, and we build this bridge in between called the instructional learning strategies, and that is the core of what the curriculum is. It's the components that a teacher would refer to, reference, utilize in order to deliver instruction that would ultimately lead them to that individual assessment item. All of our curriculum documents start with national, state, or local standards, and then include things, elements of globalization, relevance and cross-curricular themes that all align to the 21st century competencies. Our documents provide instructional strategies that our writing teams believe are in the best interests of our students, but they don't stop just there. We realize in any one classroom there are multiple students that have multiple needs. So we also provide additional options for our teachers to refer to, and we call them, we reference them as things that work for the struggling learner, things that benefit the accelerated learner, and for our English language learners, every curriculum document that we put forth have those elements, so it's not the individual teacher's responsibility or left up to them to have to figure out what to do for those particular populations. As you've heard previously, every one of our curriculum documents has an assessment piece relevant to those standards, and their teachers utilize that to make instructional decisions along the way. All of our curriculum documents have materials of instruction, textbook requirements, and additional recommendations for supplies or materials that are necessary in order to deliver that instruction. As we aspire to complete guides for our teachers to access and utilize to make informed decisions about instructional decisions, we want to do that with the idea that it's a one-stop shop for all they need. There really is no responsibility to have to look elsewhere, and that's really the role of the curriculum writing team. We also are influenced by a number of external partners. Those partners at the state level, those standards are called the Maryland College and Career Ready Standards. We certainly have influences from College Board, from the world of CTE, our national core standards for the arts, certainly our health and physical education standards. So we have lots and lots of input around which to build our guides. Those guides are put into place for our teachers and administrators to refer to, and they are what is to be taught to students. We also build into our curriculum structure a sense of ownership for not only the students but their parents, and we publish those curriculum those courses in something called our program of study. I saw a number of our guests walk in. They have an example of this. Every year, the Office of Student Data, as well as the Curriculum Instruction and the Office of School Counseling, put out these documents. They're the middle school and the high school. On these pages are upwards of 900 courses that Anne Arundel County Public Schools publishes on a yearly basis. Offers to students, publishes and updates on a yearly basis, and we're very proud of that. It gives lots of options to our students and a lot of opportunities as well. We work hand in hand with the Office of Single Text Adoption as we develop our courses. We're also very, very in tune to what resources are necessary. So the Office of Single Text Adoption aligns its purchases with what we do as an office in order to make sure that we're well aligned, current, and provide the best resources as possible for our students and for our teachers. Up next is Sharon Stratton talking about instruction.
Well, instruction is where the rubber hits the road. Our students, all students, are learners, and our new strategic plan values all, means all. And so instructional practices need to address the learning needs of students in the classroom. We're able to do that through a variety modes of instructional strategies, through differentiated instruction, and you can see that in a classroom if you see small group, if you see a variety of manipulatives out, if you see students moving, you may see students standing, you may see students writing on a tablet, or they may be at a computer. Instruction today looks very different than it was back when I was in school. It's much more active, it's much more engaging, and the onus of learning is really turned over to the students through a discovery and inquiry model, We no longer have teachers using direct instruction for an entire period for students to be able to learn the curriculum, the standards, and prepare for an assessment. Teachers really need to know the learners, and so we do a lot of work at the beginning of a semester to get to know the interest of students, their learning styles or preferences, what are their hopes and dreams, and how do we incorporate that into our lessons? Today, we want students talking in the classroom. We don't want students sitting behind a desk with folded hands in a compliant mode. We want them to be excited about learning, and the only way they can do that is to be challenged by tasks, by projects, by different ways of discovering what they need to know about those standards. Instruction for me is that a student can learn by you telling them, but not all kids learn that way. Some kids learn by just looking at a page and reading it. But in many respects, kids need to be hands-on, in the weeds, what I call in the weeds, discovering and learning as teachers guide them in those experiences. So the Department of Instruction has promoted a well-known quote by Benjamin Franklin that says, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me, I will learn." And so that is the philosophy of the Department of Instruction, and we work very hard with our teachers, our curriculum writers, in providing strategies that teachers do use in the classroom so that it's an exciting place to be.
Good evening. Thank you, Skip. I'm Bobby Pedrick, your Director of Special Education, and I'll follow Sharon's philosophical comments by saying that ours is that we will eliminate the gap through specialized instruction because education should be special for all students. Our purpose in special education is to help every struggling student achieve to their greatest potential possible. And given the variety of disabilities in the human beings that we serve, that can be a variety of potentials and outcomes, but our goal is to first and foremost know where each and every student is performing currently compared to the standard that we're trying to reach, and then to help them grow. We do that through specialized instruction. So my colleague Sharon talked about differentiated instruction, which is paramount to every student's ability to grow. In special education, our responsibility is to specialize the instruction at a deeper level, and we do that by knowing the student incredibly well and then basing their instruction on their IEP, which is their individualized educational plan. And in that plan, it communicates with the teachers and all instructional staff very specific details about a child's learning abilities and preferences. So our goal in this school system is to increase the amount and the intensity and the effectiveness of the specialized instruction that's delivered to all students with special needs. And as we're doing that, many students who are not identified with a special need also benefit from that instruction. In our county, in Anne Arundel County, 10.4% of our student population is identified as having a special need, and that is very consistent with the norm internationally. In the state of Maryland, it ranges in counties anywhere from 7% to 15%. So we feel we're doing a very good job of not over-identifying students with special needs and that we're not under-identifying these students. One of our main purposes or goals in Anne Arundel County, and we've done incredibly well with this compared to the state average, is to service students with special needs in the least restrictive environment possible. And that means for some children being in the general education classroom, and we're proud to say that over 73% of our students receive all of their instruction in the general ed setting, which far exceeds the state average and the average of most of our comparable counties. that might mean for some children that they need to receive their services in a more restrictive setting, like a self-contained classroom or a specialized classroom for students with, say, autism or who are pursuing an alternate curriculum. So it's different for every single child, and that's what the I in individual education plan means. One of our main initiatives in special education also is to improve customer service. It's difficult raising any child, and it takes a village, as many of us know who've raised children. When you're raising a child with a special need, there are a lot of complexities to that, and so we work very hard to partner with families. It's very important for a child with a special need to get to have similar supports and resources throughout their day, not just in the schoolhouse, but also at home. And so that partnership is paramount for us. One of the great tools that are used in this county is our Special Education Citizen Advisory Committee, which is made up of a small group of incredibly dedicated and enthusiastic and committed parents who give of their own time to try to help me advise my department, but also, and our Board of Education, but also to sponsor events that will be valuable and meaningful for parents who are dealing with students with special needs. So you can access, if you have a child with a special need or a 504 plan, you can access those resources through our website. And it's called CCAC, Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. The board is very committed to working with these families and trying to enhance services as much as possible for our struggling learners. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the entire curriculum and instruction team. At this time, we are going to entertain questions. Again, I'd like to remind you that personnel and private issues can be discussed with our team at the conclusion of the programming. Dr. McMahon will begin, and I will walk around and collect cards from anyone who, as we're speaking, may have additional questions that they would like to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. So I'd like to start tonight with a question that comes from stakeholders regarding curriculum. You spoke a lot about curriculum and then moving the curriculum into the hands of the teachers for instruction. Who actually writes the Anne Arundel County Public School curriculum? Can you speak to the author or authors?
Sure, I'd love to. So we identify a number of courses at the beginning of the school year that we're going to engage in updating, enhancing, or in some cases, after a new course proposal, actually development of a new course. And we solicit not only the content office's resources, that'd be a teacher specialist, a content coordinator, but we also ask the teachers in the school system, the ones that will actually be doing the delivery of the instruction, to be a part of that team. We've had invited community partners to be a part of that as consultants and or direct contributors, and when the opportunity presents itself, both parents and students have been afforded the opportunity to be a part of that. So we try to create a large team that does the writing, not just a one or two person, a very isolated idea group, but rather a large base. And prior to the actual putting pen to paper, we asked that team to go out and ask colleagues, what really do you need? What do you see as being the gaps in our current delivery, and where can we help to provide those resources?
And if I might add, I find Anne Arundel to be very unique in the fact that our curriculum writing teams are not simply the teachers who are teaching that curriculum.
Good point.
Each of these teams includes one or more learning strategy specialists who are folks in the special education realm. There are teachers of the English language learners. There are staff that work with the advanced programs involved. And so it's a very eclectic, collaborative group of folks that put that curriculum together, so that when a teacher is working with that curriculum, they have lots of different facets to work with. We build in ideas for giving students choice, the differentiation that Sharon mentioned, and we build in resources that are for students with different learning modalities than just a certain group of kids.
Thank you. This is just a follow-up to that same question. If a parent or community member doesn't feel like they can actually sit down and collaboratively write the curriculum alongside educators, how might they contribute or suggest ideas? Who would that come to?
So I believe I would be the point person, and I'd like to share a story of a real-life example. So about 2 months ago, we put forth before the Board of Education a new course called 911 Call Taker, and so that got some publication in the local newspaper. Well, a parent in the school system read that and said, you know what, I really feel like there's a need for a better economics program here in our school system. How could I put forth, or what can I do as a contributing citizen to support that? So she and I had a robust conversation about what we currently offer, and she was very clear about where she thought there were some opportunities for improvements. And so I've matched her up with our business office, and she's actually going to come in as a consultant to assist with the development of the accounting course that we currently offer at our schools. So it really is something that we value very much, but also respond to or are able to use those suggestions. So I would welcome anybody's input.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's stay focused on courses for a moment, maybe this time, for example, at the high school level. So we have, and you showed the booklets, we have hundreds of courses in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. At the high school level, does that mean that all of the high school courses are taught at each of our high schools?
I can take that, being a former high school principal. Not all courses are offered at all schools. Many high schools have special programming that dictate that certain courses are taught because of that programming. I would also say that some courses at high schools do not run because of low student enrollment. We match up our staff with certification and specialties in different areas, and sometimes a course may not run because there's not enough students taking that course to be able to teach it.
Thank you. So this one comes from a stakeholder that asked the question about a child being identified for special needs. How is that process actually occurring within Anne Arundel County Public Schools from pre-K through 12th?
So for a student who is already enrolled in school and school age, the identification process is done through a team at the school level, which includes family members and anyone else that the family would like to bring into the process. So there's a very formal process that's dictated by federal and state law, and we follow that. But it really begins with first identifying if there are concerns in the classroom setting. But the first thing we do, if that's the case, is we try to remediate those concerns and those struggles through general education options. As I said, 10% of our students are identified with special needs, which is a little bit above the international norm of 8%, but well within the range nationally. You know, our goal is to narrow and eliminate that gap before a child needs to be identified as having a special ed disability. However, if through the IEP, if through that meeting process, the team determines that we've tried everything we possibly can, and we're still seeing the child struggle, then we go forward with the assessment process at the school level. For children who are not currently school age and in the public school system, we have a program called Child Find, which you also can find on our website, and they assess over 1,500 students a year, or children a year, excuse me. They're not all determined to be eligible, but so there are a lot of safety nets in place. Our pediatricians in the county and our psychologists and lots of stakeholders in the community are well aware of our Child Find program, and we get referrals from all over the county to try to catch that situation before it becomes a bigger problem.
So this is related to that. Okay. What you're speaking of now, Ms. Pedrick. If a parent feels that their child may need either a 504 plan or an IEP, how do they go about starting the process, or is that not appropriate?
That is appropriate. If a parent has concerns that their child is struggling, and they would like to see the assessment process considered, all they need to do is go to that child's home school or the school where the child is being serviced and request that the child be assessed. The first step of that is called meeting A, and that is where the team sits with the parents included to discuss the child's struggles. Sometimes it's determined that the struggles are already being addressed without having to go through the IEP process and that there's no need for assessment. However, if there is a need for assessment, then the team together develops what's called a student evaluation plan, and they move forward with the evaluation process.
Thank you. And to move a little bit more in depth on this, if a child is identified as needing a 504 or an IEP, then do they receive the exact same curriculum as those students who are not identified with a special need?
So our obligation in this country is to expose every child to the full the full curriculum, excuse me. So yes, they're exposed to the full curriculum. A child who's really struggling, so a child with a significant learning disability in a general education classroom may be pulled to the side of the classroom, or it may be done one-on-one, or they may be pulled outside of the classroom for 15 minutes for that specialized instruction. So they are exposed to the full curriculum. However, depending upon the severity of their disability, we may as educators focus on certain components of that curriculum for that specialized instruction.
Thank you. So this is switching gears a little bit. So you mentioned, Ms. Pedrick, about birth to 21 is really the children and students that we serve. This is a question from a stakeholder about pre-kindergarten. They recognize that pre-K is not mandatory, but they're really wondering, if I'd like to enroll my 4-year-old, how do I go about doing that? Is it truly an option? How do I go about doing that?
So that is correct. Pre-K is not mandatory, but if a parent wishes to enroll their child into our 4-year-old program, they would go to their local elementary school and speak to the school site administrator about that program. It is a registration process that begins in February for us here in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and there are it is income eligible priority. So those students are provided a seat according to their income eligibility. And through that program, then we are very specific as to the number of seats we're able to accommodate in our 4-year-old program per our state regulations. So we do have a process, and we welcome them to approach us to enroll.
Excellent, thank you. This question's about assessment. So what is the difference between what you were speaking of as assessment, Ms. Pugh, and what any of us may know as a test or an exam in our past?
So assessment is much more of an umbrella term for a variety of different ways to see where students are. So people just use different terms based upon their own experience. So a lot of teachers do use the word test for meaning a one-time shot of here's what we're going to do today, so I'm going to administer a test. Whereas assessment, we like to think of it a little bit more holistically as a variety of different pieces of information about a student to assess their overall learning or progress towards a standard or skill.
And can you speak to a little bit about how it's gone in Anne Arundel County Public Schools since we moved and shift to quarterly assessments?
So one of the major reasons we moved to quarterly assessments was to give an opportunity for teachers to analyze student results and then provide immediate reteaching. What we did in this county for many years is to have semester exams, and in many cases a student took a test on the last day of the semester and then changed classes. So there was no opportunity for our teachers to really dive into where individual students are and to provide the supports and reteaching needed to do that. So I think that's the major shift that we've had, is I think teachers are being a little bit more diagnostic and then looking at that assessment, seeing where students need to go next, whether it's a couple of days opportunity or in some cases a couple of weeks that they still have with the student to really focus on the individual student learning needs.
Great. This question is really about meeting the needs of the students. If we have new curriculum and new instructional strategies, and we are trying to meet the needs of all students. How do the teachers actually get help to do this as things change in the school system?
So I'll start that off. They are updated in a variety of ways. So we, throughout the school year, have opportunities to have face-to-face time with them, and that might be in a large group setting where we bring them, invite them together as a grade level or by course. Then we also have opportunities to work with them hand in hand in the school building, and so that we're sitting side by side through collaborative planning, professional development that may be after school or during the school day, depending on the schedule. And then we have opportunities during the summer, and that provides us a longer length of time to work together to expand their knowledge about what the updates are or how things have changed.
So
Go ahead.
So an important element of the curriculum documents that we're publishing these days, since 2012, is a subsection called background information for teachers. And so it is a point specific about this particular lesson or concept that our writers want to clearly communicate to the readers, or the teachers in this case, about whatever's happening at that moment. So they include content information, maybe a link to another resource that lets the teacher become more solidly aware of what's being taught. But in a lot of cases, it includes instructional recommendations of different strategies than the stand and deliver. It provides game situations or other options for the teacher to utilize about that particular lesson, not really broad. In addition to that, we also do ongoing professional development at our elementary levels, where teacher suggestions are made ongoing, and teacher A from one school could say, hey, I've got a really good idea, and she or he shares that with everybody at that grade level, so they can collaborate and really leverage the masses in terms of how to best deliver a particular content.
And I also was going to add that our teachers have received over the years, and it's continuously ongoing, many opportunities for training and professional learning around formative assessment. So best practice in a 60-minute class time period is to formatively assess your students at least 3 times. And that's how our teachers know on an ongoing, regular basis where the students are performing in comparison to the standard. And then within the curriculum, we've based multiple ideas, as Skip was saying, about how to change up the instruction or ask the students to share what they know in a different way. So we've provided examples. We're not dictating that they use those, but it's to prime their mind and prompt them to think about teaching it in a different manner or assessing it in a different manner so they get the full picture.
And I also think one of the most powerful things we do with teachers is to bring them together. So there's nothing more powerful than learning from colleagues. So within, when we bring together teachers to work on a various assessment programs, we're talking about 400 teachers together in small groups and larger groups, having opportunities to really discuss things with each other and coming back with, oh, here's this one idea I learned from this session, or I read this article, or I saw this video. So I think whenever we can provide opportunities for teachers to learn from each other is really where we get the most bang for our buck as far as improved student success, because that's where it comes from.
And I know, Ms. Stratton, I don't know if you'd like to speak for a moment about the Instructional Conference that you hold annually.
Okay, once a year we have a conference that's focused solely on instruction. It's teachers learning from teachers. There is no big guest speaker. It's teachers sharing their craft with audiences of teachers who want to learn more. I would say also we have really provided professional development in a lot of different ways, and we're looking at alternatives to face-to-face because sometimes that is not possible. And many of our teachers enjoy a hybrid model where they can learn online, respond online, watch videos and podcasts. So there's so many opportunities for our teachers to learn about different strategies, about how the curriculum has changed, and how they can take a new approach to teaching material.
And I would also share that within the Department of Special Education, along those lines, we offer twice a year a teacher-to-teacher showcase where teachers come and they are learning from their colleagues best practices. And there's nothing funnier than watching a group of high school teachers who are used to teaching chemistry and biology on the floor using a twister board to do a brain break. So they get very motivated when they learn from each other.
It's wonderful. This question comes from an elementary stakeholder parent who is asking about the curriculum. Is there a place online where she can actually explore the elementary curriculum and find the curriculum standards for each grade level?
So we are in the process of finishing our curriculum and implementation, the new curriculum in 4th and 5th grade this year. And so you can access certain documents. We are working on a portal to open that up further as we move forward. So right now, a lot of our materials are in hard copies that we can provide for our families, and many of our things are sent home at the beginning of the year to really give them more of the depth and scope of what's going to be covered in that particular grade level and each subject area. But Mr. Lee and I are continuing to collaborate how we provide additional resources for our elementary families.
Thank you so much. I think this has been very, very informative tonight, and I appreciate everyone coming to share with the community.
Our pleasure.
Thank you all so very much. We invite you to join us next Tuesday, August 14th, 2018, for our final presentation, where we will present an overview of school security. Thank you so much and have a great evening. And if you have further questions or questions for clarification, our staff is available to speak with you. Thank you.
I couldn't see. Is this yours?
No.
I said
years, and then after they get out for the school and to go to the college, and so they are totally independent, and they be in their own, and they go out and they live themselves. But in our country it's different, so we leave all the parents, grandfather,